Here is what might be Donald Trump's strategy for winning the election that is 99 days away.
If we don't get border security, after many, many years of talk within the United States, I would have no problem doing a shutdown. It's time we had proper border security. We're the laughing stock of the world. We have the worst immigration laws anywhere in the world. We need border security. Border security includes the wall. I would be certainly willing to consider a shutdown if we don't get proper border security.
With the latest polling showing that 58% disapprove of the president's immigration policies, Democrats believe a Trump government shutdown over the wall, which would occur about a month before the election, would be good for the Democrats. Republicans think the Democrats are right about that. Last week, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell thought they worked out a deal to avoid a government shutdown and delay funding for a wall.
As far as the wall is concerned, we've gotten some wall funding already underway, and the president's willing to be patient to make sure that we get what we need so that we can get that done.
Is the funding of the border wall going to wait until after the midterm elections?
Probably.
So you're not worried about a government shutdown before the midterms?
No, that's not going to happen.
That was last week. Now that the president has threatened a shutdown at the height of the election campaign, Republicans are very worried.
I don't think it would be a good idea, and I don't think it would be necessary.
None of us want to shut down the government. Democrats are, no one wins. I think the American people expect us to do our job and should.
I think it'd be bad politics for the Republican Party to shut the government down. Would get blamed, so I'd prefer a deal that would be a win-win rather than shutting the government down.
But Donald Trump has never been in step with the Republican establishment on his campaign for the wall, especially when he first announced his campaign for the wall when he was a candidate. In a new piece today, Ezra Klein writes, in a field of Republicans who were trying to change the party to appeal to a rising Hispanic electorate, Trump was alone in speaking to Republican voters who didn't want the party to remake itself, who wanted to be told that a wall could be built and things could go back to the way they were. Joining our discussion now is Ezra Klein, editor-at-large at Vox and the host of the podcast, The Ezra Klein Show. His new piece in Vox is entitled White Threat in a Browning America. Ezra, what does Donald Trump think he knows about the wall that those Republicans we just heard from do not know about the wall?
There are two things. One is that Donald Trump believes that the core thing that wins an election is that you get your base out. Donald Trump is not a persuasive politician. He does not try to persuade people who do not agree with him to agree with him. What he tries to do is tell people that he agrees with them. He tries to get people who feel ignored by the political system, who feel angry, particularly at the Republican Party, to turn out to vote. So one way in which Donald Trump has talked about this before, and this has been reported pretty widely, is he thinks a shutdown might actually help him because he'd have his base, his people activated, upset. They'd be watching Fox News. They'd be coming out to vote. Maybe. The other thing, and this just goes to Donald Trump, this is a way in which Donald Trump's views are very authentic. I mean, he's not kidding around. He really, really believes that we need a wall on the border. He really believes that the border is completely insecure. He really believes that America is being overrun by people from countries that I will not use this term on the air. And so the other place where he disagrees with the Republican Party isn't just on the politics of it, but is actually on the importance of the policy of it.
And in your piece, Ezra, you talk about the linkage here of what caused what. There's been this common theory since the emergence of the Trump vote, a big enough vote to win the Electoral College, that economic anxiety activated the racial resentment that was manifest in the Trump campaign. In your piece, you find plenty of evidence that racial resentment activated the economic anxiety, that the racial resentment came first, and the people who harbored racial resentment then had a higher level of economic anxiety.
I'm so glad you asked me about this. Yeah. So a lot of this data, there have been a ton of studies on this now, but a lot of the ones I'm using here come from a book called Identity Crisis, which is the best look at election data from 2016. It comes out in about 2 months. And what they found, there's been this very convenient theory of the election. And the way it goes is this. Donald Trump, you're not seeing in him a racist America. You're not seeing a white identity backlash. You're just seeing a bad economy that makes people scared. It makes them defensive. It makes them pull back. And it makes him ready to blame others. And so all you need to add to that catalytic mixture is some kind of combustible agent like Donald Trump, and you get what we got in 2016. And the reason that's a reasonably convenient view is that it means we can fix it. We can fix the underlying thing in a way we all agree on. We just need to make the economy better. And everybody wants to make the economy better, right? Well, the problem is that just doesn't appear to be true. Racial resentment, not economic anxiety, led how people voted in 2016, at least the ones who were changing their votes. And one of the ways we know that is that before 2012, before 2016, back when you're looking in 2007, if you looked at how resentful people were racially, it had no reflection on how they thought about the economy. By the end of Barack Obama's presidency, how you thought about the economy was extremely related to what you thought about African Americans. So you had this thing happening where if you were more racially resentful, you believed the unemployment rate was worse than it was. If you were more racially resentful, you believed the economy was going in the wrong direction. And by the way, Donald Trump was one of these people. He was out there saying that the real unemployment rate was 42%. After Donald Trump won the election, the economic optimism of the most racially resentful flipped. They are now the most economically optimistic people in the country. This is not what you would expect if what was going on was an actual economic conditions problem. It is what you would expect if people were filtering their feelings about the economy through their feelings about whether or not their group is rising or falling.
And it seems possible, even by the evidence in your piece, that the Russians who were attacking our election process were actually more aware of this. You say there's a reason why when the Russians wanted to sow division in the American election, they focused their social media trolling on America's racial divisions.
Yeah, this has been reported widely. USA Today did a great analysis of this. If you look at what Russians were doing on Facebook, if you look at the Russian troll farms and bots, they were doing Black Lives Matter trolling. They were trying to get into America's racial divisions. And this is a thing. America pretends an innocence about its own racial, not just past, but its own racial present. We don't like to be told these are divisions. We don't like to be told that there are problems here in our country. We want to believe that we've all become colorblind, that we moved into a post-racial moment, that it's all just a completely easygoing conversation about economic anxiety and politics as policymakers would have it. But we have these very, very deep cuts. We have a lot of trouble talking about them, but those who want to influence our elections don't. And by the way, that's not just the Russians. Political consultants know how to do these things. We've seen for years ads that are very good at doing dog whistles and coded appeals. This is a very deep wound in the country, and people who are trying to move our politics know how to activate it.
Ezra Klein, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.